As it was morning. Good morning. It's 9:30, and I'd like to call the Tuesday Water Board meeting, New Orleans, September 20, Board of Directors meeting to order. Special counsel, please call the roll. Are we on the air? I guess we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Cantrell, Councilmember King, Director Barnes. Here. Director Duplessis. Present. Director Markowitz. Director Guzman. Here. Director Pacia.
Here.
Director Sloss.
I'm here.
Director Howard.
Here.
Director Scholas.
Here.
Director Antrup.
Here.
President Pro Tem, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. May we have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 19, 2023 Board of Directors meeting, please?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Bringing us to the Executive Director's report. Mr. Corbin, if you would.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board of Directors. Good to be here this morning, and we have quite a few items on my report today. And we know we have a long meeting today, so I'm going to be as brief as I can, but I know a couple items will require some time and attention from, and I'm guessing going to require or bring some questions. And so happy to start with the topic of the day, and I do not have the clicker.
I did.
Oh, sorry. So the first item that's probably on everybody's mind today, I can assure you that it is on our mind. Ron and Steve and I have been talking about this nonstop, and just to kind of talk about the timing of this issue and when it became public. And so the first announcement that was made by the Corps and GOSEP on behalf of the governor was last Friday, and it was specific to Clackaman Parish and the issue that they were having with the salt wedge and the salt water intrusion. That's when we became aware of the issue. And Monday of this week, 2 days ago, NOSEP held a meeting with all the agencies, all the impacted parishes, GOSEP, the Corps, and obviously we were there to talk about the issue, the big picture, what it looks like today, what it may look like a couple of weeks from now or a month from now. There's a lot of moving parts, lots is happening. A lot of modeling that is being done by the Corps of Engineers to start anticipating the impact upstream where we are. They are taking a lot of measures in terms of mitigating the intrusion and the pace by which the wedge is moving upstream by building a sill or a dam, at the bottom of the river, and they're talking about even increasing the height of that sill to further slowing down the pace and the migration of the salt coming our way. We have a meeting with them tomorrow, with the Corps of Engineers tomorrow, face-to-face with Colonel Jones, and we're going to ask a lot of pointed questions. We're going to try to understand their modeling. We're going to try to understand their role, what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do, so we can start preparing for specific scenarios based on facts and numbers and modeling, the way we understand it. Obviously, we don't want to react to this, but we don't want to obviously dismiss it by any means. So this is real, and we're going to do whatever we need to do to mitigate it based on what we know, what we'll know and find out tomorrow. I trust that everybody knows what is happening in terms of why there's a salt wedge moving up. The levels of the river are very low. The flow is extremely low. And that kind of changes the equilibrium and then allows the salt or Gulf water to start moving against the flow of the river, and it's moving at a pace of about 1.5 miles a day. So it's moving. And this is, I'm repeating what I've heard in terms of reports. We are focusing today on managing how we can help Plaquemines Parish and maybe others in terms of finding where we can connect our system to theirs, especially on the West Bank, to help augment some of their water supply. The fact that today we are able to purify water, and if we have capacity in our system, we stand ready to help Plaquemine Parish. So Ron and Steve are in communication with their engineers and their counterparts to figure out what infrastructure is needed and what it's going to take. So we believe that it's a matter of a week or 2 weeks where something can be executed and make that connection available to them. And once we make that, we're hoping to enter into an agreement with them and make it a permanent connection, given that fact that this is not the first time it's happened downriver, and it's likely to happen again. So we want to be more proactive and be good neighbors, and if we can help them, we will. So
just a couple of quick questions. So
Yeah.
you did cover, because my first question was, what do we need to know as an organization? So I think you did a good job addressing that. Thank you. So how do we prepare ourselves as an agency and as citizens of New Orleans? And is there a expected timeline for impact here? Or it could be that these mitigation efforts that you're speaking of may stop it from reaching upriver and affect us in this agency?
So the last question is an excellent question, and that's what we're hoping to hear more definitively from the Corps of Engineers in terms of what their mitigation actions are, and to get better, more sound, and more confidence in their action, and they can project then what the delays, or if not total prevention of having come our way. So we'll know more tomorrow. If we can start speculating, should the wedge gets to our the east bank, our water plant, it depends on the levels of the chlorine and the salt, not the chlorine, the salt. There are different mitigation things that we can do, whether it's blending of that source with bringing fresh water from somewhere else through via a barge, or I would be speculating multiple scenarios today, and I can assure you that we're gonna look at multiple scenarios. We just don't have all the answers today, but I assure you that we will. The timeline looks like it's gonna be sometime, if it happens, 3rd, 4th week of October. So
This year.
this year, yes.
Yeah.
And the duration.
Well, it's moving.
I was like, oh, it's coming in 10 years.
No,
Good.
no, no.
Oh,
So
No,
is
this-
there any precedent for
Oh, look at
this
that.
happening in Orleans Parish?
So back in 1988, we had similar but not exact conditions, but the actual levels of salt didn't get to the levels that they're projecting that it may, I emphasize may, get to this time. So we didn't have to adjust the way we treat water, but we did have similar flows and similar elevations.
So-
And it's just one more quick. I think this situation is more about the duration of the presence of the salt wedge. It happens where it comes and goes, and it doesn't have that lingering impact. This is a situation where it may be speculatively into December, maybe January. So that period, October through December, what creates more concern and more impact, negative impact, possibly on several things, obviously, like equipment and the way we treat, cost, mitigation, and all that.
I think Dr. Schultz had a question.
Yeah, I can see how this works. Boothville and Venice are way down there, pretty much surrounded by ocean on all sides. I totally get that. Is this one of those things that they'll be able to mitigate by like opening up some waters from the Bonnie Carey or something like that, the various spillways to just increase the flow? Again, as a non-engineered person, I'm just.
It's a very
If that's a
logical.
basic question, I'm sorry.
Logical question. I'm sure that is plausible, or one solution on the
Like a
menu.
flush, yeah.
Whether they would entertain it or not, I can't tell you for sure what would prompt them to do it, what the ramifications are. Are there other reservoirs upstream that they can open? I mean, as we know, there's drought conditions upriver, so water is more precious, right, and more scarce, so they don't want to let it go. So there's a lot of things that are being considered, yes.
Director Barnes has something too. I
Yeah.
think we,
So it's an interesting point. The Bonnie Carey, I think, just goes the other direction only because it's about when the river's too high, getting the
Reduces
water
flow.
out. So I just want to raise a bigger issue, which is not necessarily for discussion today, but obviously this is sort of, we're treating it as an event today and there might be another event, but I just wonder if this is being modeled because this is climate change and this is about heat and drought and, you know, scarily increasing salinity in our river.
Absolutely.
So I also think collaborating with the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority might be useful just as like a state partner, because I'm sure they're doing some of this modeling and maybe the Water Institute as well, so that we can, because we need to figure out how to anticipate, is this just now a thing?
Yeah,
Right?
so
That's gonna start happening.
great feedback, and I can tell you whatever infrastructure adjustment we're gonna make, we're gonna try to make it permanent again,
Yeah.
to be ready for future events. We are gonna bring expertise, and your suggestion is awesome in terms of who we can go to relative to the little bit more modeling and the impact of this, you know, saline water on our pipes, lead lines, what the impacts might be. So we're definitely, we talked about that yesterday, bringing some expertise immediately, how corrosive this material is going to be, the chemistry, how it's going to change, because we know other cities experienced similar situations where the chemistry changes and they maintain the same treatment. And then obviously you had the Flint, Michigan, for example, where you know the ramifications were very, very severe. So we're trying to anticipate and trying to make any major adjustments, and we will reach out to the Water Institute for sure. I'm sure they have some
Director Howard has something.
research on that.
What ability
Good
do
question,
we have to treat saltwater?
None.
No ability.
None.
Our system doesn't. So having said that, we are about to receive proposals relative to water quality. We're calling a master plan, but more alternative analysis of what future treatments we can have at to replace what we have, which is very conventional and very traditional. And I am more than positive that this situation is going to be reflected in their alternative analysis in terms of, you know, for consideration. Reverse osmosis is probably the most common process. It's expensive based on this scale that we, you know, of water we produce, but it cannot be dismissed, and it has to be on the list of things for us to consider. So that's probably 2 years out before we fully have a fully developed plan.
Then if we have like our neighboring parishes, we're gonna track the progress and prepare, what are we able to, prepare? What does that mean if the water, I'm at a loss to
Yeah,
understand what
yeah.
happens.
And this is uncharted territories, to be honest with you, but one concept that, again, you know, you start talking about it and it becomes, you know, especially when it comes to media, that, oh, this is what we're doing. This is a concept that we're considering, again, as an anticipation, where if the salt water levels get to, you know, like 250 parts per million, for example, then we're going to need to set up a large barge at the source that's full with fresher water that we will have to import from somewhere else upriver, and then keep that barge full and blend the water to bring the levels down to a acceptable level. Anything below 250 is considered. I mean, we're running probably at 35 or 40 now. So to go up to 250 or higher, obviously, you have to mitigate. Plaquemine is at 1,700. So I mean, so but they can bring temporary reverse osmosis machines, and because of the volume is much more manageable than ours.
I think Director Page has some.
Does tying into their system have any negative impact on ours?
No, we'll take precautions both ways to protect both systems, but it's merely a connection allowing flow to go one way or another.
That's correct.
We'll have backflow preventers, bi-directional, and then we can dictate which water to flow. It could be a win-win at one point. If we have low pressure in some areas, we can get water from them, and the opposite could easily happen.
But it's not a capacity, we're making about 150 million gallons a day, if I remember. It's not a capacity issue.
So the West Bank is about 12 MGDs,
125,
and
yeah.
we may have a little bit room for increased capacity. It's limit for now, given other factors, maybe some current leaks and we're not at full capacity, right? So we have room to give, but not everything that they need. It could be, again, I'm gonna use numbers. If they need 10 MGDs, we may be able to give them 2 or 3. But that's something. I mean, that eases any external needs for them to bring more machines or what have you. So, but that's for them to assess.
We had Tyler had his hand up down here.
Sorry. So two things. First, to Robin's point about sort of like future conditions, the board does own land upriver. It was purchased for this purpose. So obviously, as a part of the master plan process, we'll look at what to do about that. But are we doing anything to maybe speed that up at all in terms of, is FEMA willing to, or the Corps willing to step in and help us speed up perhaps transferring our intake further upriver for future conditions? Or
Certainly, it will elevate the conversation for
Yeah.
sure. If this happens and it happens for a long time, it is going to bring attention to needing to do something more what we have now.
Yeah, but I think it's good to point out that this has been anticipated for a while, and it's somewhat prepared, and that we do have land and the ability, in theory, to get water further upriver.
Right.
But my second question is, I'm not understanding why we haven't put out any public statements about how the water is currently safe to use.
Well, we have
Besides
we
right
have
now.
a press release that we will send out immediately after the
Okay.
board meeting. We wanted
thought
to be
about
having a conversation.
I'm getting like texts, multiple a day, from people saying they've been told the water is already not safe to drink.
Well, and
So there's the rumors in the community are that the water is not safe to drink right now.
Yeah, we tried to gauge that by how many calls are we getting at customer service, and there were very few.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yeah,
dismissing that.
unfortunately, these are folks who are not going to call 52 Water.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to comment, just chime in just a little bit. The water in New Orleans Parish is safe to drink. Based upon the chloride levels we are right now, we're at normal. Our chloride levels is between 35 and 50 parts per million, pretty much at both plants. So we're within a normal range to drink. And as what Ghassan indicated earlier, that 250 parts per million, that's with the National Secondary Drinking Water Regulations with EPA, and that's cosmetic or aesthetic that you can start to taste or potentially taste that salt and that salt water. So again, we just wanted the public, not just with Orleans Parish, but Jefferson Parish, because Monday we were on a conference call with GOSEP and the Corps and the parishes as a regional effort in dealing with this, because as Ghassan indicated, this is a regional issue that may require regional solutions for large water treatment plants, and we're actually doing that right now. So I just wanted to comment what the water is safe, and then the other comment, what Tyler is right, we do own 20 to 25 acres in St. Charles Parish, and that was part of a 1956 report.
Wow.
Just to say, back then when New Orleans was the largest city in the South, they had anticipated growth, and at a time that parcel of land in St. Charles Parish was for proposed in 1960, a new 300 million gallon per day treatment plant. So, and again, you got to take it the concept of in the 60s when the city was growing. But again, that is potential if from not just a board effort, but from a regional effort. And I'm just saying from a regional effort with mitigating not just Swebno, Jefferson Parish is upstream of us also. Potentially, if that comes in long term, they'll take a look at that. But the main thing is our water is safe. Based upon the salinity levels, we check every day.
We had Alejandro, did you have something? And let me point out that Director Markowitz is present at the meeting. Did you have something on?
Yeah, so clearly this is a situation, no pun intended, it's a fluid situation.
We got it.
And a serious one that we don't have enough information right now to really assess what are the next steps and what our strategy should be. When do you anticipate to be able to gather this information and be ready to have an update report to the board and then obviously to the broader community?
Well, we're hoping tomorrow's meeting is going to bring us more solid information and better understanding on what the Corps is doing, how they're projecting, how they're mitigating, and what their role is going to be. Obviously, we're going to reach out to GOSEP to understand, what their role is going to be, because if this happens, it's going to be a much bigger issue than just the Sewage and Water Board in terms of producing alternative source of water and what have you. It's a large-scale mitigation will be required. So after tomorrow, we're hoping to know a lot more, and then we can start, devising. Yeah. In the meantime, like I said, we're going to reach out for other sources and resources in terms of kind of assessing what the potential damage could be and what other mitigation or methods we can use to, for example, blend the water to keep the levels low at the source. Uncharted territory for us, but we're better tested, and we've had situations where we'll figure things out at one point. So
We could.
but we will share whatever plans we develop with you once they're solid and complete.
I know that this is something we spent the rest of the day talking about. It's fair to say that we are coordinating with, communicating with all the relevant agencies involved. This is, obviously, it's not just a sort of water board issue, Corps of Engineers and what else going on. If there are no further questions on this,
I have a
is that
few
the end
other
of your
issues.
report?
It can be. It can be.
So many things going on.
Okay. Here we go. So quickly, just we're making it a point to keep you abreast on what's going on with the power complex. We're tracking very well, both on the energy side with their substation, as well as our part, which is much more complex and in larger footprint. All the piles, I wouldn't say all, maybe just about all the piles are done. There may be a couple left, but there are no concerns with those at all. And we're starting to put the superstructure, which the actual spans that are going to hold the conduit and start carrying the power. So this is the most recent picture that is as of yesterday or the day before, so which is up to date. And again, we can't wait to get you out there to witness the actual progress. Funding is progressing. A lot of moving parts, but we're set up to go out with a couple key contracts by the end of the year to basically fill all next year's activities to allow us to deliver the project for the 2025 season. So again, we're tracking. In terms of hurricane preparedness, all equipment status is the same. Ample power and a couple pumps that are down, but again, no concerns. We're in very good place as we're nearing the end of the hurricane season.
It's been remarkably quiet this year.
I'm sorry? Yeah, it's been a very quiet season.
Oh, don't say
in
that.
general.
Oh.
No, I know. Agree.
Take that back. Scrap that. Quick update on smart meters. As many of you know, this week was the first week where we had a soft launch. We're actually out there swapping meters and learning, obviously, any issues that we encounter and lessons learned. We're developing and updating SOPs every day to obviously become more and more proficient at it. We are focusing on 1.5 and 2 inch just because of the inventory, and we explained previously that dictated how to proceed with the installation and what to focus on. as not to lose any momentum or time. So many of our customers have received their first postcard in the mail, and then obviously the folks who are getting their meters done, they get a postcard 2 weeks early, and then again a knock on the door the day off. So it's so far the communication is going well. We've shared this before, but just want to emphasize that we were able to gain $5 million through the SRF specific to the smart meter program, and then there's another almost $5 million that we can seek in the future. So again, as stated before, this is a very critical project, and although we didn't have the full funding for it, we know that we're confident we're going to get the funding for the project so we can complete it. Another area that we're focusing on, as you know, is the paving repairs, and that is progressing very well. It is important to emphasize again we have brought a lot of system funding to this project early on. We depleted those funds because the pace was so much faster than we anticipated, so it was a good story. We brought $4 million from the IAB, from the infrastructure fund, and we're about halfway done with that expenditure, and we will consume all that $4 million by end of November. And parallel with our activities is the city's contract that is helping us diminish the backlog from what we started with about 3,000 to hopefully 1,000 by the end of the year. And our crews have been very productive. We've added crews, and then we brought new equipment, so that is moving very, very in the right direction. And I'm hoping many of you are witnessing and or experiencing those improvements across the city. Clicker is slow today, I'm sorry. Okay. And lastly, I want to, obviously emphasize the fact that our job is to minimize the burden on our ratepayers. So we look for money wherever we can find it. And this year so far, we're able to access about $98 million from a variety of sources, federal or state. They're all listed up there for a variety of purposes, whether it's drinking water or wastewater or whatever, power. It's all in that on the left side. And I just want to highlight two potential sources of funding that we are looking for. And then Gray will have an action item for you in a minute, specific to the lead service line replacement program. As you know, this is a very critical from an infrastructure, but more important from a public safety perspective. So that's going to be a very, very important project for us to remove all the lead lines that exist in the city. And we have been working on an inventory of those lines that is progressing very well. We have a October of 2024 deadline to produce an inventory for our lines and to have a public-facing document showing who has lead lines and who doesn't. We're confident we will deliver that project. Along those lines, we have to also develop a plan to how to replace all those lead lines systematically. So that is a plan that's being developed as we speak. And I would call it a partially funded mandate from the federal government, where there's available funding through the IJA dollars that is funneled through the SRF, through the state. And there's $84 million available. I think 5 have been utilized already, or I guess allotted to others. So there's 79 million that we can go after. And then the resolution that you will see in front of you asking your permission to allow us to do that. And Gray will talk about more details, but just want to make sure that you know that we are developing a plan that will come to you for approval and that has a lot of multiple drivers that will dictate how we do the delivery, how do we prioritize and such. And the other topic I just want to share with you, this is not an action item for today's meeting, but it will be for October. We are, from our side, the administration side, we are planning to recommend a rolling forward of the millage. This happens once every 4 years, as you know. And one key step before we come to you for a vote on that is to have that advertised twice in a major publication, and that's been accomplished. And the timeline is 30 days before we can take action. So that sets October meeting for, sets the stage for us making a case for rolling those taxes forward. As you know, we have 3 millages that support drainage. So with that, I just want to make you aware that this is coming. It's been advertised, not taking your vote for granted, but we have to go through those steps before we can even ask you.
Thank you. I hope everybody will give great consideration to rolling it forward. If there are any questions about that, any hesitations about it, please talk to Gassan or Gray to find out, to have any of those questions answered. And I think we will see uses of that PAYGO money in October at that point in time. But well,
And
I think it's a very important thing to do, and I want everybody, if they can, to make sure they give due consideration to it.
yeah, it's important to note that ultimate decision is the city council,
Right.
and they could reject our request. But I feel strongly that we need to make that request with your approval, and then if they reject it, that would be the outcome. Yeah.
And just to, point of clarification, when we have the roll forward in millage, there's a 19 to 23% increase in revenue, but the millage just stays at the same level it was last year.
Yes.
It's not rolled back.
If the millage was 100 last year and the increase in value would bring it to 90, we roll it back to
Right.
100.
Right. But I just want to make sure that it's clear that it's not increasing from last year's millage.
Right.
But our revenue increases, yes. That concludes my presentation, and if I
Thank you
didn't
very
cover
much.
anything, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember King is here.
What?
Councilmember King.
I was going to say that. Councilmember King is here. So thank you. We next have our financial update with Mr. Lewis.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to give a brief update. I'm just going to make a few abbreviated comments on our normal deck that we go through and let the board know we're staying very busy with all the major projects going on and kicking into our planning season for the fiscal 24 budget. So we'll be coming back to you, as Gassan just mentioned. But through July, revenue was at 158 million, about 3.6 million less than budgeted. Our expenses were 196 million, well below the conservatively budgeted figure. We expect those gaps to narrow here as we get into the fourth quarter and the end of the year. Continue to watch those and consider those as we build our fiscal 24 budget. On the next page, I wanted to highlight the cash collections in August. We're back up after lower months in June, July, so happy to see that. That's brought our average year to date for 22 to about 21.5 million almost. So it is trailing last year's average. So again, highlighting the need to focus on customer payments and the continuity operations with collections and normal consequences. We do have a new payment plan software project that just got kicked off. Is geared around sort of more flexible payment arrangements that are using smartphones and technology to help customers pay and really try and catch up on arrearages. That's still a top challenge that we face. We understand there's lots of financial constraints out there, but again, we're trying to work with our customers to improve in this area. And then on the dashboard, I wanted to just highlight a couple of the normal metrics that we monitor from debt service coverage, or line 9, cash on hand at the end of July for water was 174 days and 265 for sewer, both above the targeted levels. Our budgeted debt service coverage is about 1.8 for water, 2.14 for sewer. And the final 2022 audited numbers for both of those debt service coverage metrics were 2.54, 2.59 for water and sewer. So that is allowing us to protect our bonding capacity and really spend as prudently as possible so that we can focus money to pay-go capital and investing in infrastructure. And then also on the receivables line 19, we show here at the end of July, receivables at 51.8 million, lower than the same time last year, July of 2022. So it's come down, continue to focus on this. As I just mentioned, during the month of July, we had 1,500 new payment plans. We see a lot of plans set up, but also being broken. So continue to focus there. And then 1,045 disconnects, orders for disconnects during the month of July, which was a bit lower than July of 2022. So again, that's a last resort for our customers. There's many things that we're working, you know, if a customer has a dispute open, they have some type of special exemption, they would not be subject to disconnect. But you know, come October, we're happy to say the last 24 months, we'd have continuity of collections with service disconnections, which has helped our collection ratio quite a bit. All of those except for the large multifamily, the only exception there.
Can I ask a quick question about that, Gray? I know we talked specifically about the challenge with these multi-unit buildings and that the tenants are actually paying their landlord for staying there, but the landlord is not paying the water bill and it's not parsed apart by unit. So our only recourse in that situation is to turn off water to the building, which is who actually the client is that's not paying their bills. We talked a lot about sort of addressing that, but in your report, if I just heard you correctly, that's still an issue that's lagging for us and we don't have a good solution.
Yeah, it's an issue. We've done some measures with legal and you're either going to the owner. Normally we're dealing with the property management company. We get the owner involved, we get a little traction, but sort of just taking to go property by property and you know, work with the partners that are you know, obviously stakeholders and not cutting an entire building. We don't want to cause more problems than we're solving. So it's a joint effort and again a challenge, but something, you know, we're working on. And legal actions do tend to get some attention. So we've made little bits of progress on some complexes. That was all the specific remarks. The rest of the monthly activity was sort of a normal transaction. So happy to answer any questions. And we're working on August, obviously, but yeah, and getting ready for the budget season.
Thanks, Greg. Good to see the collections coming up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, did that issue for council member? Did that issue go to the council, and what sort of feedback did we get from the council on that? I'm asking him.
We got.
Hold on, Gray. I'm asking the council member. I'm sorry. Because I want us to be in sort of alignment with them with how we deal with these big companies that aren't paying their water bills. And so what happens is we have a real big issue on our balance sheet, but the actual constituents that are living in these buildings are paying their bills. But our only recourse would do something that would really, really harm them.
They come to the Sewage and Water Board, they make a presentation about not cutting off water supplies during this time, during this heat. And I believe it was mentioned when you have these large complexes with a person, where the owner doesn't pay, what do you do? I know as a council, we've asked them not to turn the water off, but as on Sewage and Water Board side, it's kind of difficult saying don't turn it off when you're owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I don't think we came to a resolution, to your
Are
resolution.
there any precedents in other cities in which there is like some sort of fine to the actual owner, so that it's an incentive to pay the bills? You see what I'm saying? So going back to your comment, the only way we can make the building owner pay is by cutting up the water and putting some pressure on with his own clients. But, you know, for obvious reasons and everything that we've discussed, we don't want to hurt the broader community. So the question is, have we seen other best practices in other cities where they have a similar situation and they exercise some sort of pressure to the business owner?
I guess I want to state that we did bring this specific issue to the council, and we were unequivocally told, do not shut water off to multi-unit because you're punishing the community, not the owner. And then we asked for assistance, to your point, of what can the city do to levy a fine and call it some kind of code violation that you're not paying your water bill on behalf of your tenants who are, in theory, paying the rent, which includes water. And we have not yet received any, feedback or any suggestions or recommendations.
So I guess what's frustrating for me is that we're left with this balance sheet looking like this, and we're also sort of getting the blowback from our balance sheet looking like this. And at the same time, the tenants are paying their bills, like they're paying for water.
What I would suggest, it may
Maybe,
be
it may
just
not be.
purely a legal matter where the Sewage and Water Board would take legal action against that property owner. You can't take it against 300 individual tenants. And you don't want to also turn off the water for these tenants because it's not their fault that they're landowner.
Is there another lever though that can? be pulled?
And so my question is,
Well, that's
when
the
we
problem.
collect account information, like on these large complexes, do we have owner information associated with the account so that we know, okay, so it's these accounts associated with this landowner, and then start to put in ramifications or parameters around what happens when we don't receive information? Do we even do that? Logistically, is that something that we can do?
Yes, yeah, we have records of the owner recordness. So
But
a lot of it
often-
has to do with timeliness as well. That's a big factor.
But-
You get to the issue, in a month or two versus 6, 12 months, a lot better results.
So oftentimes the multifamily apartment complexes change ownership quite often, and they move from LLC to LLC. Oftentimes we find,
But can we put a lien on the LLC?
Stop the
Because
transfer.
and
It'll
stop
stop
the
the transfer.
transaction.
You can't sell.
so we are in the process,
That information when these transfers happen.
Yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
oftentimes there's a lag time. And so we've taken legal action, but that's a lengthy process that we have to do when you take a legal action against the multifamily units. When we do take legal action, the calls do start, but if there could be a less costlier process by the board being able to potentially at least start shutting off some multifamily units, that I think that would cause multifamily units to actually start paying more aggressively.
Maybe, but it boils down to either we need a law change where there's a fast track way to put a lien against the property, and I presume that's the council that would do that, I don't know that.
Right, but
Or
let's
mechanical change, so anytime, but anything that we build in the future, we have individual meters for each one. I mean, going back, I understand would be virtually.
Yeah, the cost ramifications of that obviously is tremendous to have, if you have a 200 units, to have 200 meters and to retrofit that would be tremendously expensive. Typically, should be borne by the owner, but I want to answer the question specific to other examples. I can tell you, the city of Milwaukee, for example, the treasurer at the end of the year makes the water utility whole for all outstanding accounts, and then they put those bills
That would be nice.
on the tax bill, and that's how they leverage. We don't have that mechanics today or mechanism or the collaboration,
Have we asked for it?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we've asked for help, and
But could we
Should
put a
we some
specific proposal?
proposals? Yeah,
Because it's just have to saying, for council to say you can't collect the money, it's like telling the landlord, don't bother,
Yeah.
don't bother about it. Put it at the bottom of your list.
What's the
And this-
current number, Grade, on that, a ballpark on who's over 90 days in multifamily stuff? I think it's a fair amount of money.
Yeah, quickly though, I want to highlight what Director Howard just said, is that the council has effectively given these landlords permission to not pay their bill
Permission not to pay.
because they've said we will not shut them off.
Well, it's really not up to them, but we don't want to defy them.
Sure,
We could turn it off.
exactly.
well, and I think we all agree, there's two problems. We don't want to hurt the community.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't want to hurt the community by not, having sufficient funds to run our utilities.
Exactly.
So I agree. I think that we could work together to put specific proposals from our end and present them to council and say, look, we are in agreement with you. We do not want to hurt the community, but we don't want to hurt ourselves either.
Well, we have a council member here. What is the best approach?
I was gonna wait for everybody. I disagree a bit when you say we've given permission for people not to pay their bills. Because looking at it from not a business, I know this is a business, and I said that at the last council meeting. It's a for-profit business, and you gotta pay bills and pay for services. At the same time, I think it's a bit inhumane to unfairly discipline hundreds of residents due to the lack of their landlord not paying the water bill. So it's a very tough situation to be in, and it's a lose-lose. But I just don't believe that turning the water off will teach Ms. Johnson in Department 1A a lesson.
No, and
That's not what's being
well,
suggested.
respectfully, we are not a for-profit company. We are a government agency. So we're not a for-profit company.
I got that part. Still,
but-
you shouldn't turn off the water.
Sure, I agree with you on that, but I think for the council to just say, there's nothing we can do about it, you can't shut people off. You're passing the ball back to us and we don't have anything to do with it.
Well, but what about this suggestion? What do you think if we come up with multiple solutions or benchmarks and offer them to council and have a dialogue on what we can do? And again, I think we're all in agreement that we do not want to hurt the broader community.
Right.
But we do need a solution, because by not fixing our financial situation, we are hurting the community as well by not providing the quality
If-
services.
For those who were at the meeting, they can vouch for it. I made that very clear. I said if we don't allow Sewage and Water Board to collect these fines or these bills, then Sewage and Water Board can't pay employees. They can't pay to fix potholes. So
Right.
all the services start to suffer. That's clear. I just don't have the solution.
Right.
How do you fix this problem?
And so that's where we are.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
we
what we're
want to be able to
suggesting.
come up with
Let's
some
do this.
solutions and offer them to city council, because we agree on all of these points and we're all lockstep.
agreement.
We're all in agreement, but what we haven't come to is the solution. piece.
And we're looking for
We're not
leverage.
gonna do that at this meeting right now. I
Yeah.
think we all understand the problem. We all agree that it needs to be prioritized in a sewage and water board list of to-do items to figure out something to work with the council on this. And I'm sure there are examples out there that we could find.
I'm asking what Chris said, can you explain more the legal process? Is it possible to sue that LLC or that individual or
The
somebody
problem,
associated with it?
we have sued, and the problem is that, as you know, Councilmember, the litigation process is a long, lengthy process, right? And then when attorneys get involved, we are in court. There are many, and that's when, once we file the lawsuit, that's when the owner will then reach out to the CFO or some other person in customer service to begin the negotiation of the bill and start paying something on the bill. But that litigation process is a long process. Also, when you file a lien against a particular property, oftentimes you are unable to collect on that lien until that property is sold. So that's one drawback. But what we can do for a solution is look at Milwaukee, like Ghassan has suggested, and then bring that to the council. And maybe the council and the board can work together to be able to do what Ghassan has said works in Milwaukee. I think that would be a perfect solution,
I'm
because then
missing
we
what
would
works in
not.
Milwaukee. What guess that's a.
Milwaukee pays the bill at the end of the year. Their
Puts
city
it on the
treasury
tax
pays the
bill.
bill. That's not gonna happen
And
here.
that's just an example. I mean, there could be
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
solutions
yeah.
with,
Right.
you know,
It will require state legislation.
Right,
yeah,
right.
So we will think about what is more feasible and then put a reasonable request on your behalf.
Legal
to-
fast
to the
track.
council.
You know, legal fast track,
3.2 million is on page 11 is.
3.2 million? Yeah.
Not insignificant.
No, it's not. It's not insignificant at all. It's a 1% of our budget, I suppose, one way to look at it, right? Isn't that right?
Mhm.
All right, I think we've covered a lot of, a lot of ground on that one. It's a vexing issue, but I'm sure the solution is in the legal arena.
or a combination.
Combination, yes.
So what?
Or a combination of multiple, actions.
Put meters everywhere, I don't think. But anyway, okay. So, Gray, you finished with your report? Thank you. Brings us to the F&A committee meeting. We met, last meeting we had was August. We didn't meet in September, which would normally be the case. We had present with myself, Directors Howard, Pacheco absent, Directors Guzman, Markowitz. We had a presentation by Keith Redding of Raftellus, which you I think got in the minutes, a detailed study of the update on the drainage system funding feasibility study. And they said we need to spend more on operating and maintenance capital. They're thinking $100 to $110 million. For us to take over the minor drainage system, as you all know, we don't handle pipes under 36 inches. That'd be another $15 to $20 million that we'd have to have. That would have to be phased in over a period of time. We're talking about where the money comes from, what they talked about, and they are in favor of a fee as opposed to a tax, as we now have on drainage, which you all know. The fee is a fair way of charging. Everybody pays. They delineated, I think, enumerated 3 different housing sizes, and so you'd pay based on permeable area and on non-permeable area. You get credit for permeable, not for non-permeable. And so that would be depend on your lot size. It was surprising to me that they could actually map individual houses pretty easily. It's kind of creepy, really, but they can do that. That's really about it. It was a very interesting report. We had some information items. We had no public comment. We had no further business, and so the meeting was adjourned. I didn't say this. It started at 2 p.m. It adjourned at approximately 2:54 p.m. That's my report. If somebody will accept my report, move to accept my report, that'd be great.
So
Move. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I had one more thing before we get to the action items. We have scheduled, and I hope we will have 100% attendance, a retreat. We kind of had a couple of false starts, which I'll take credit for screwing up in the beginning of time, in the beginning of the scheduling on this. It's the 25th, I think, of October, which will be at the Audubon Aquarium. For
Yes.
those of you who haven't seen it, they've spent about $40 million on it, and Audubon's graciously allowed us to use their conference room there. So I hope everybody can make it. I believe it's 9 to 1, free lunch included.
So I'm planning to come, but just to let you know, my once every 10-year board recertification calls in that. And my office told me to block out all my time to study to make sure I don't fail that exam. But I will take some hours off from studying to make sure I come there.
Well, I hope so. I sent out a note of an email of what the things we were talking about, things we were going to be presented on, and I asked for a solicited, if you all have ideas, things you'd like to address at that, please do email that back, and we'll take a look at that. So I'm excited about it. Hope everybody else is going to be excited about it. It should be a fruitful meeting. With that, We didn't cover the action item since we didn't meet.
So we have one committee, one other.
So I'm so
committee.
sorry. Good Lord, Robin, gee whiz.
Don't distract
Director
me.
Barnes, I'm sorry, I was on a roll there, you know. Anyway, strategy committee, please, Director Barnes, I apologize.
We also met in August, rather than September. Our idea of no meetings in August didn't really turn out. but
That's not working out.
We had really a incredibly informative strategy committee meeting where we had two big presentations. So the first one was Grace Birch, our interim communications director, talked about how the Sewage and Water Board is tying together multiple programs that are now running into an overarching campaign about sort of our transformative water programs. And just to give you a clear idea of what we mean, that includes smart metering, the backflow prevention, the plumbing and house connections, lead service line, and water purification. And so the advantage of putting them together also offers a communications opportunity to really talk about this as a campaign and really to inform the public about these different programs and have some unifying messages. So that was really, I think, wonderful. And we had heard some we had some presentations earlier and provided feedback, and it was really great to kind of see some of our feedback in there. So that campaign, I think, is going to start launching, right? Right, Grace? Yeah. So I think we're going to just start seeing more out there on social media, and I think there's going to be presentations to different groups and that sort of thing. So that's great. Then we did a deep dive of one of those programs, the Smart Metering program, where Rebecca Johnsey, who's the principal engineer, and I said the most important person in New Orleans right now because that program is so important. And she did a very detailed overview of how that is going to be rolled out. And because we love asking a million questions, she had anticipated that. And it was a very, very detailed report. And so that is, we'll be starting with I guess it's a slow start route plan soon, right? This year. And then it will proceed to ramp up. And we even had a prototype of one of the new meters in the room so we could look at it and just, it was just great to have that visual so we could actually understand what it was all about. So there were no action items. We just had these presentations, but I think they were just really helped us kind of understand how things are moving forward. So we were very pleased with that. Thank you.
Excellent report, Director Barnes. Sorry, I stumbled on introducing you. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to accept the August 16, 2023 strategy report?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
That's been moved, probably second. All in favor, so signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to the action items. Gray, would you please introduce Resolution 125, 2023, authorization to apply to the Louisiana Department of Health for funding from the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund for compliance with the revised lead and copper rule for lead service line identification removal purposes.
Yes, thank you. Gassan highlighted this is our September application is due, so that's the reason we're bringing forth this so we can apply to the Louisiana Department of Health. There's a very attractive federal funding in the form of a loan that would be 49% forgiven and 51% at 0% interest. Very attractive. It's funded by the bipartisan infrastructure law, which has allotted 5 years of funding to the state of Louisiana. So we've already been in contact with LDH and would like to be one of the first ones to put in the application and hopefully get majority of these first 2 years, which would put the program well into play for implementation costs, which, as it goes without saying, this is a monumental, very large project, multi-decade. There on the right, we just show some projected costs. If we do rough estimates right now, which are all sort of preliminary because it's based on the inventory of lead service lines, where we'd be replacing both the utility side and private property side over a decade, multiple decades. So just running some quick numbers, you could spend $25 million to $30 million annually, and this initial application will get us funding for the first approximately 3 years. So very, very attractive federal funding, and we appreciate the board's vote to allow us to put in this application and get it in front of LDH, and hopefully we'll get good results to come back to you on. So thank you for your vote.
Is there a question? Well, actually, is there a motion to approve Resolution R-125-2023?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second. Probably moving second. Any discussion? No. Public comment?
No public comment.
All in favor, please so signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Bringing us now to, excuse me, General Superintendent recommendations. Ron, if you would.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Pro Tem. First section is contract awards renewals. I'd take the first three items, B, C, and D, and global. The first resolution is R-088-2023. That's referencing contract 30247, restoration of gravity flow sanitary sewers by excavation and replacements from manhole to manhole, CIPP lining from manhole to manhole, CIPP lining of service laterals and point repairs at various sites throughout the city of New Orleans. 2 bids were received and opened on Friday, June 21st of 2023. The lowest responsive bid was determined to be from CMG Pipelines Incorporated, and with a total base bid of $2,799,780, and the GSO's office is recommending acceptance of this bid. Second award is for Resolution R-090-2023. That's for contract 30251. That's Carrollton Basin number 10 sewer rehabilitation. This is part of our ongoing contracts for addressing the EPA consent decree criteria. 3 bids were received on July 31st, 2023. The lowest responsive bid was determined to be from BLD Services LLC with a total base bid of $2,859,452. And the third award recommendation is related to Resolution R-103-2023. That is for contract 30252, Carrollton Basin number 11, sewer rehabilitation. This is another contract in association with Carrollton Basin. 4 bids were received on August 25th, 2023. The lowest responsive bid was determined to be from BLD Services LLC with a total base bid of $4,083,468, and the GSO's office is recommending acceptance of this bid.
May we have a motion to approve contract award resolutions R-088-2023, R-090-2023, and R-103-2023?
So moved.
Been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Any public comment?
No public comment.
All in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Bringing us now to the next item.
Yes, sir. Change orders. We've broken it up per the board member's recommendation to 2 sections. The first section we're going to go over is the change orders by approval. Bringing to the board, this is Resolution R-106-2023. Approval of change order number 2 for contract 1438, combustion turbine generator number 2 procurement. In essence, this change order, due to our challenge with funding, putting contracts out, the various contracts with the West Power Complex, we are requesting approval of this change order to delay the shipment of the turbine number 2 as per the original schedule until the work that's currently ongoing right now, building the foundation and those pieces of required assets in order to store and accept T7 for Solar Turbine to continue to ensure the long-term liability of this critical piece of equipment. They will continue to take responsibility for the delayed delivery date. This also includes storage and the required maintenance of this piece of equipment while it's in their possession, as well as the shipping, and we have to extend the warranty terms from the original contract. This change order is an amount of $640,564.00, and we are adding 209 days to the contract time. And the General Superintendent's office is recommending acceptance of this change order.
Question. $646,000 for them to hold on to the machine, is that what we're talking about?
It's more than just holding on to the machine, storage costs, and then the extended warranty terms. So we are extending the warranty and the terms of this specific piece of equipment for an additional 209 days. There are costs associated with that with going beyond the original warranty period that will expire if we don't extend this contract.
And there was maintenance, you said as well.
This is just because we're not ready for it?
That's correct. The funding mechanism for the West Power Complex, it's heavily dependent upon other funding as well as capital outlay. And based upon last fall, when he approved that last batch, that allowed us to put additional contracts out. And that additional contract one is 1415, which is in construction right now. We put out the equipment contract earlier on because of the manufacturing lead time associated with Turbine 7 as well as the static frequency converters. So again, there are fees associated with extending the contract, and the delivery date that was per the original contract requirements for T7, we have to push it to the right until we have the other components associated with the West Power Complex in place to complete that construction.
These things are just on a semi-trailer, right?
No. This is a permanent piece of equipment with several pieces of equipment that will be mounted on top of a permanent foundation, tied into our balance of plant equipment. So it's just not bringing a trailer in and hooking it up.
It's a jet engine.
It
It's
is-
the same
it
as
is-
T6.
Yeah, I guess my understanding previously was they were just gonna be on wheels.
That was part of the
previous
original,
version?
that's
Okay.
correct. This is a permanent attachment to a permanent concrete foundation, which is actually in construction right now.
May I have a motion to approve 106-2023, or 106-2023? We're gonna have this thing.
So moved.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
And moving properly second. Is there more discussion on this?
What is the amount of the extended warranty versus the storage cost?
I don't have that breakdown with now, but Mrs. Howard will make sure we get you that information.
I guess one perspective I'd like to offer here is that the alternative is not having T6 ready when we need it to be ready. This
T7.
is the T7. This is a price to get a very expensive machine that we had to order way back when to make sure that it is available. I mean, this is a lot of money associated with the storage and maintenance of that machine and extended warranty, but the alternative is not attractive. This is a good problem to have, that you have the machine ready to be shipped to you when we need it.
But it's not a good problem to have to pay them because they have it done before we need it.
Remember the cost implications of a delayed order and the ramifications of that. It would have cost more money.
That's correct.
Arguably, if it had been pushed to the right, so to speak, in terms of scheduling. Supply chain issues, I mean, those are the current real issues that we were facing at the time that decision was made.
Right.
I'd like
This
to,
But the
this is from a
question,
long time ago. Let's, yeah, okay,
but,
sorry, Joe.
but the question is, it's not moving forward because the foundation is not ready,
That is correct.
correct?
That
What is
Is not being brought to site because it's where it's home, it's not ready.
That's
The
correct.
foundation is not built yet. So it has to be stored and protected until that time happens.
And that's the delay.
That is part of the delay. And as I indicated earlier, when we said the challenging of funding, is that our funding, we have several sources of funding. And the capital outlay is a large portion of funding when we're doing our hard construction components of that. And again, as Ghassan indicated, we need the foundation and those critical components to be in place so you can bring that equipment there and set it up. That's the key to it.
So how are we paying for it? Is it coming out of capital outlay?
The,
640,000?
Yes.
yes,
So what aren't we gonna get?
say that again?
What aren't we gonna get now?
We had a contingency
That's correct.
budget, built into the capital outlay dollars so that consumes that. Some of that.
That was my comment I was gonna make.
Yeah, and
So there's a new schedule that I've asked for that's included that spells that out. The impact of us approving this is zero because it's been part of the change order contingency budget.
Okay, but that
Might
eats
be
up all
helpful
of
to
it.
have that up on the screen while we're going through these, but.
awesome, Carol. That thing worked.
Thanks, Carol.
You're welcome.
All right, we've talked about this a lot. Is there any further discussion on this? Is there any public comment? I missed the joke over there. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. All in favor, please so signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you, and good discussion on that. It's a very complicated situation. I know that getting everything lined up exactly right in time must be very difficult. Item 6, change order ratification.
Yes, this is the ratifications. There are 6 items, and I will go through each one, all through 6 of them global. The first one is Resolution R083-2023. That is ratification of change order number 1 for contract 2162, water main point repair, water service connection, water valve and fire hydrant replacement at various sites throughout New Orleans. This change order relates to the emergency water main repair that occurred on Easter Sunday of this year, at Audubon and Cone on the 30-inch water main, one of our main transmission mains in our system. This change order will pay for the entire emergency repair that will perform, and then the change order would also allow not to deplete this entire original contract of 2162, and will allow the original funding in the contract to still move forward until the renewal period. The GSOs is recommending acceptance of this change order number 1 for contract 2162.
Can I ask a question, Ron?
Yes.
Just if I don't understand. Why is it a change order instead of just a separate contract for this emergency repair?
That would have to go to bid, right?
Yes, and what we,
There.
say it again?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, what we did here is that we did not declare a declared emergency for this. What we made the decision in the GSO's office is to pay for this work at that time under this contract. Once all of the work, we got the work done and additional work, it came up close to the value of this contract.
So we had an outstanding contract with Bow Brothers to do emergency point repairs as needed.
No,
They
this
take up all of it.
No, this is our maintenance contract,
Okay.
right? So this is our normal maintenance contract. We have several maintenance contracts with the networks, with several contractors to do water repairs as well as sewer repairs, and they pretty much supplement our maintenance force. And when we utilize this, when we have an emergency such as this, we utilize this contract as a mechanism to quickly get in and do that work.
It was all over TV and everything.
Absolutely.
Like crazy. I remember.
That's great.
We can take all these in Globo, so we
Yes,
don't
sir.
need to do anything about that.
Second resolution is R091-2023. This ratification of change order number 1 for contract 30236. This is the Carrollton Basin number 6. This change order, in essence, we are transferring the mandated consent decree sewer work from DPW's JIRR contract to an internal sewage and water board contract in order to meet our consent decree deadline. This change order is in the amount of $1,442,427. I would also say the cost of this work was budgeted within our capital budget to be paid to the city of New Orleans as part of their JIR project. So there's no net increase in our overall capital budget. So instead of paying DPW, we would supplement and pay ourselves in order to do this work in order to meet the critical consent decree deadline. That is resolution 091. The next, any questions? The next resolution is R092. That's ratification of change order number 10 for contract 3799. This is the installation of the sludge dryer at the East Bank wastewater treatment plant. And in essence, I'd say, Tanya, I'll go to that next sheet. This change order number 10, if you take a look at it, this is for additional work we're doing with the sludge dryer. As you're aware, that the sludge dryer did suffer damages associated with Hurricane Ida, and we're on our tail end trying to repair and get the sludge dryer up to par. This change order number 10 is in the amount of $38,193.42. And as you can see, it's for additional items and also the T&M, the labor costs associated with the contractor to assist with the dryer startup. The next change order for ratification is R100-2023. That is ratification of change order number 4 for contract 1376. Waterhammer has a mitigation program. It's a high lift pumping station and our Panola pumping station. This is part of our overall Waterhammer project. And in essence, on that first page, that last change order number 4 is that staff The GSO's office wants the contract, and we dewatered that well. This structure, Panola Pump Station, was built in 1938. This is 85 years old. Once we dewatered the well, the clear well, we did inspect the well. The clear well is in still good shape for 85 years, but we also decided that since the clear well, everything is down and isolated, that to add an epoxy coating to that clear well. And the whole point of that is to give more longevity to the structure. Hope we get another 50, 100 years out of the structure. So, and the reason for doing this is that this is the first time that we've dewatered and isolated this clear well. We did a thorough inspection, and the amount of time and effort to do another contract to do it, it's in the best interest of the board while it's dewatered to add this epoxy coating when the contract is there. So we're asking for, that was a ratification on that one. The next ratification is R101-2023. That is ratification of change order number 4 for static frequency converter procurement contract, and this is really our 3 static frequency converters. And again, as the executive director indicated earlier, in addition to T7, these static frequency converters, we put a bid out ahead of time to get it manufactured, get it in the queue. This ratification of the change order is for additional tests that were needed as a result of the first factory acceptance test that Siemens had recommended to do additional tests that were not part of the contract specifications. This ratification is in the amount of $27,876. The next ratification is R102-2023, and that is ratification of change order number 3 for contract 1418. This is our Carrollton Water Plant utility rack contract, and this ratification is really a credit. This is a credit back to the board in order to maximize dollars associated with this West Power Complex. We elected to, the board itself, with the approval of the executive director, elected to utilize the exempt statute by the state and local taxes so we can save dollars on the purchase of materials. And again, the contractor did buy some materials ahead of time, but once we submitted, informed them of this information, he was able, for his future materials that he was going to buy, that there's a cost savings relative to taxes, and this will reduce this overall contract by $549,634.85. Make sure I have that value right. No, so
26,489.
it's 523,144.47. So I want to note in that second to last whereas, I need to check that 549. That may be a typo, so we're going to check that. But right now we have the change order. This change order is an amount of 523,144.87. So this is a credit back to the board. Yes, ma'am.
I think there may be something, it says, whereas this change order in the grand total of 523 brings the accumulated contract change order total to 32 million. Isn't that just the contract total? It's not the change orders. We don't have 32 million of change orders, right?
No, absolutely correct. That's correct.
Is that what it says here, though?
So the accumulated contract change order total would be
That should be-
negative 523,144.87.
Yeah, but what I need to do is just clarify, is to check those two
The
numbers.
543, but
The 549,634.
But what you're reading, Jan, maybe an earlier version of this, right?
No, it's still there. It says contract change order brings the accumulated contract change order total to 32 million. I don't think the change orders total
It
32
says
million.
That is
the
correct.
contract total.
The contract total.
I'm looking at it.
Right there, contract change.
Oh,
order.
above it.
Okay,
Sorry.
got you. That will be, thank you, ma'am. Absolutely
The therefore
correct.
resolved is right. It's the one above it that's wrong. I got it.
That is one change order type too many.
$32 million change
That will
order would be
lined
great.
up. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, Director Howard, without a doubt.
So
Absolutely.
is there a motion to approve R83, 2023, R91, 2023, R92, 2023, R100, 2023, R101, 2023, and R102, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Then moved and probably second. Is there any discussion? Sorry.
I do have a comment/question. Resolution 100, according to the summary, which is page 6 of Gray's financial report, is the only change order listed here that would, in theory, have been unbudgeted and would thereby cause a reduction, quote unquote, reduction in funding available for water pay-go. So just to connect all the dots, that means we'll have that much less money to spend towards other water system replacements or repairs that would have been funded by pay-go funds, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks for clarification of that.
And I'm assuming we generally don't pay tax on stuff that we buy. This is just that they bought it ahead of time, paid tax, and we got a refund later on, right?
Yeah, because the contractor bought it. So
Yeah.
we extend them,
Just want to make
tax
sure.
exemption.
Okay, so it's been moved, properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? Any public comment on this?
No public comment.
Public comment. All in favor, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Bringing us to item 6, L through R, contract amendments.
Yes, Mr. President Pro Tem, and there are 7 amendments. I'd like to take them all in global. The first is Resolution R093, 2023. This is contract amendment number 4 to the agreement between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and Veolia Water North America LLC for the capital program management service. This is a no-cost, time extension only contract. This is requesting the contract to be extended 1 year from 2022 to 2023 because of the ongoing sludge dryer install contract. And it's a no cost. We're recommending approval of this extension. Second amendment is R094, 2023. That is amendment, authorization of Amendment 8 to the agreement between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and Hartman Engineering for the design and engineering services for the water line replacement program. We have several of these. On the second page is last whereas pretty much this is additional amendment required for the additional construction administration for the contract for the project currently still in construction, RR002, Audubon Group B, not to exceed $39,680. So make sure it's $39,680. The next resolution is associated with R097, 2023, and that's authorization of Amendment 7 to the agreement between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and Integrated Logistical Support Incorporated for the design and engineering services for the water line replacement program. Again, this Amendment 7, we're adding fees for additional resident inspection on the sewer installation and service connection associated with the JIR project DPW RR087 Lakeview in the amount not to exceed $38,400. Next resolution is R098. That is 2023, authorization of amendment number 10 to the agreement between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and Myers Engineers Limited for the design and engineering services for the water line replacement program. And again, this is really for the last whereas is that the board needs additional engineering, design, and construction services associated with a project RR111. That's the Lower Ninth Ward project in Group D, as well as our own transmission main, which they're the engineering record, TM003, for a total amount of this amendment is $163,760.33. The next amendment is authorization, Amendment 11, that's R099, 2023, authorization of Amendment 11 to the agreement between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and Neil Schaefer Incorporated for the design and engineering services for water line replacement program. And again, that last whereas, we're amending this for additional design services associated with the ongoing JIR project, RR 2013, in the amount not to exceed $7,820. The next resolution on the amendment section is R104, 2023. This is the authorization of amendment number 5 to the agreement between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and NY & Associates Incorporated for the design engineering services for the water line replacement program. This is associated with additional permitting, coordination, design efforts associated with TM 10. That's another one of our transmission main projects that's in the design. Due to the efforts not anticipated that have been encountered that are required in the field, that are required by NY & Associates. This additional compensation not to exceed $161,250. And the last amendment associated with the section is this is ratification of amendment. I didn't break it out, but it's a ratification of the second amendment to the Algiers Subbasin SELA, Southeast Louisiana Urban Flood Control Program Project Partnership Agreement between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans, between the U.S. Army through the United States Army Corps of Engineers, the Coast Protection Restoration Board of Louisiana, and the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans for related documents. This amendment has been signed by the mayor's office as well as the board's executive team. And it's Amendment 2 pretty much changes the funding mechanism that $94.3 million from a 75-25 split to a 100% federally funded split on a construction exclusive of the relocation. So that this is, and there are other documents that you can see in the last whereas that were associated with this amendment that are being that were executed, and that completes the amendment section.
That was, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve, to ratify contract change order resolutions R93, 2023, R94, 2023, R97, 2023, R98, 2023, R99, 2023, R104, 2023, and R105, 2023?
Enthusiastically move.
All right, is there a second enthusiastic second? We have, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, apologies to my colleagues, but I do have a few questions. On the first one with Veolia, how does it's obviously just for the capital program management, how does that intersect with their overall management contract? Or are we extending that as well, or?
Yes, they have two contracts. Well, you mean the O&M of the plant?
operations,
This
yeah.
is separate from that.
Right.
So this is a separate contract relative to their project management service associated with the capital program. The existing O&M contract is still in effect. Is that what, if that's what you're
Yeah,
asking?
how long is that for?
The term period at this point is December of 2024.
So this is gonna extend their capital management out past their,
No,
And
it
contract?
aligns it with the,
it matches them up.
It goes to 2023, not 2024. So this one goes to just another year. So this goes from, you're extending from 2022 to 2023.
Okay, and then the second question was on all the water line replacement ones. These are FEMA funded projects, or these are what we're funding in addition to?
These are FEMA funded up to the amount of the FEMA funding that's an amount, and once we exceed that, it comes out of system funds.
So we're taking these mostly out of systems funds, these change orders?
Right now, they're FEMA funded
Okay.
at this point. And these are for the current projects that are in construction.
Right.
Right.
And then my last comment was on the last resolution, 105, 2023, there was
Yes.
a typo.
Okay.
If you want to go up one page. Here you have 94,000 rather than 94 million.
3 zeros, absolutely, we'll take care of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Me.
Thank you very much. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, public discussion?
No public comment.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Corresponding resolutions, we have Mr. Sutherland introduced Resolution 121, 2023, and 122, 2023. They were previously approved this morning at the Audit Committee.
For a second, sure.
This is the Internal Audit Department charter. Basically, the IA charter at a high level establishes our standards of practice, which commits our department to follow the International Professional Practices Framework of the Institute of Internal Auditors. Also sets up our independence and objectivity as a department separate from the organization, as well as our reporting structure, reporting functionally to the Audit Committee and only administratively to the Executive Director. That's the Internal Audit Charter in a snapshot.
Is there a motion to approve resolution?
A request. I think when we're asked to approve things that are referred to in a resolution, we should be getting a copy of what's referred to.
Okay, so this originally came to the board a couple of times back, but we had some not
Edits to it,
renovations, some modifications based on feedback that the board came. So this is a comeback with the incorporation of the modification language.
Right, I'm just saying we're getting things to
We're asking
approve
for
that
some
don't have,
representation,
that incorporate other documents, and we're not getting the other documents, the reference document.
Right.
They should have been
It's not
included in
just
the board
audit,
pack.
it's
Yeah.
this whole set of corresponding resolutions. I think they should be included in the board.
Right, they should be included in the
They
packet.
normally are. You're absolutely right.
So I think in this instant case, because the audit committee meeting was held this
Today.
morning, unfortunately, the audit committee meeting was supposed to be held earlier in September. However, due to scheduling conflicts, we weren't able to hold that meeting.
So what's the implication of waiting until next month to approve this?
Well, we've been trying to do it for a little while, and this is one of those things that we're trying to meet best practice. And establishing this position, having this position defined as operating outside of the system, right, and reporting only administratively sort of for evaluations of assigned, really meets some of the criticisms that we're getting from the city council in terms of oversight. So that would, so this and the resolution R-122-2023 were really to address those things and to codify what we're actually doing in best practice to be responsive to actually providing oversight.
Right, but given what's been discussed here.
I'm fine. I'm just saying that's.
No, listen, I know this is.
Again, and part of me, I feel like this is Groundhog Day, because I've had 1,000 meetings about this.
Yeah, but now that we brought up that we're voting on something that we hadn't reviewed.
So if it's a pleasure of the board, we could either bring it directly to October's board meeting, or
there was an either in that statement.
or you can vote on it today. But if it's a pleasure of the board, we can bring it directly to the October board meeting. It has gone before the audit committee meeting this month and approved. And if we bring it to the October board meeting, we will have two things that will occur. The audit committee report will be presented to the board at that time, as well as that you will also have all of the materials in the October board meeting.
From September.
Packet from September.
It seems to me that probably is a prudent course here.
The pleasure of the board.
Director Howard?
I just like to see what I'm approving, that's all.
Okay, well, then I think so.
So I'll move
Need to
that.
do to delay the vote.
I'll move the resolution R-121-2023 and R-122-2023 be tabled until the next board meeting in October.
Second.
All in favor? Anybody? Very gracious of you. Thank you very much, Dr. Schultz. Okay, that brings us to, Yolanda, this is for you, R-124-2023, is that right?
Yes. This is relative to the amendments, amending Article 6, Section 10 of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans bylaws relative to the Plumbing Conference Committee. Just FYI, our bylaws also state that the amendments must be introduced at one meeting and laid over to the next meeting.
Right.
So we will be deferring this particular action item as well. But just to give the board an introduction, this was presented to the governance committee that was held on yesterday. And there were the two main changes to the governance committee, added to the governance committee, and that was the recomposition of the plumbing committee. We now have 4 current employees, industry personnel on the plumbing committee. We're removing those persons and adding staff personnel because there has been a reorganization of the plumbing committee. The plumbing department has moved from the general superintendent's office to the chief of customer service. Also, plumbing now encompasses regulations that deal with LDH as well as DEQ, Louisiana Department of Health and Department of Environmental Quality. And so we thought it was in the best interest of the plumbing committee as well as the board to add additional staff members who have that expertise. So the chief environmental officer will be added to the plumbing committee, as well as the chief of engineering, as well as the chief of customer service, because the chief of customer service now manages the plumbing department. And so also instead of having 5 standing committees, just as Director Howard had suggested and recommended, we will now have 6 standing committees, which will include the plumbing committee. So this is just the introduction to the resolution. There will be no vote. And so we will need a motion to defer this until the October board meeting.
Moved and probably seconded. Any public comment? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion Motion carries. We're going now into executive session. May we have a motion to defer executive session? Why are we doing that?
Because of the time constraints, we have a Board of Trustees meeting that was supposed to start earlier, so we thought in the best interest of the board members.
That's fine with me. I just, so we need a motion to defer.
Who's deferring
To,
October.
To October.
oh,
Deferring to what?
to October?
October, yeah. Okay, so so maybe we have a motion for executive session regarding Antoine Macul versus Sewage and Water Board, CDC number 2015-00847 to the October 23rd, 2023 board meeting.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved, probably second. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
And no public
Motion
comment.
carries. Pardon me, we have information that we typically have, no public comment, you said. If there's no other matters, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there such a motion? Second. Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. It's a long meeting. Don't forget the retreat, 25th, October 25th.
And so now we have a Board of Trustees meeting.